As far as choosing units, I tend to go for at least two platoons of infantry. Um, you want to start off strong with a good mass of units, just in case the enemy pushes hard, and so you're not waiting on reinforcements after the fact. So you always want to have a large amount of units already at the forehand, just in case. Next thing is, when looking at this map, you don't want to get fixated on looking at things from a top-down point of view, even though this is a strategy game where you look from the top down. You want to analyze the topology of the map and find a spot that's suitable for setting up a base of operations or a defense. Because sometimes it may not be in your interest to attack in a linear fashion like right here. Maybe you'll want to set a fixed point of defense here and attack over here. But I'm going to show you what I did. So I set up these defense beacons because before the game started, I looked down at the map like this to determine what would be the best place to put my anti-air, so if the enemy tries to attack with helicopters, I can kind of cover my frontal approach here. So you want to get down to the ground view here and just kind of scan the environment. Where would you want to put anti-air? Would you want to put it behind this hill here, where it has no view, or would you want to put it up here, where your manpads have a clear view of the incoming valley here? So that's why I set those defense beacons up. At this point, I've pretty much determined where I will set my base of operations, and it's going to be along this path here, simply because I can screen for aircraft here and have my infantry line up in a nice little fashion here. Now, do I need to plug in this whole line? No, I just need a squad or two just along here just to have a somewhat of a slight defense set, because you're not worried about pushing at this point. You're just worried about getting a nice line set to propel from. Gonna fast forward a bit. Try to speed through this because it's not an hour long, but I just kind of want to get the point across. Now you'll see I have two T-55s, and you would wonder, what are you going to do with tanks in this heavy or this very dense forest? And these T-55s are going to be solo operators. They're going to protect my flank, but not from infantry, but from incoming vehicles that may be transporting infantry. Because as if you're a player and you're traveling through a forest unopposed and no one's stopping you, you're not going to unload your troops. You're just going to keep moving. So the chance of catching troops in transport is higher when there's no resistance that your opponent is dealing with. So I put a tank here and a tank here just to ambush any infantry that may get a little, I guess, proactive and try and come through these paths here. Now you can see my line starting to form up here. Important thing is, even if I didn't have my teammate here, which I'm glad I did, I wouldn't want to push immediately for this point, because when you're pushing without any kind of foundation or base of operations to propel from, you're leaving yourself open to a counterattack or just completely being wiped out. Things are getting started early. I'm starting to take some fire. I'm realizing the enemy's pretty close, and that's not a bad thing. Just feeling it out. This is why recon is very important, and your recon helicopters are a really strong tool, especially if you safeguard them and use them appropriately, and don't overextend with them. And you're going to see how I isolate these pockets of infantry and clear out this forest without actually losing too many troops. Matter of fact, let me do this from a neutral view so it makes more sense as to what I'm seeing. The enemy has some helicopters, anti-air, and that's pretty good, but he's overextending because at this point, pressing this high up the map without any air support, you're pretty much leaving the helicopters vulnerable to being shot down by air. Just so keep in mind that even if an enemy is pressing you high up the map, if they're not being followed by a line of logistics in the sense of anti-air or something of that sort, they're going to fizzle out their attack without the proper backing. These are just things that you'll learn over time. Keep in mind, I do know there are some enemy units somewhere in here. I don't quite know where. I just know that they're probably here and here. So I'm not going to push them. I'm not going to risk losing the troops. I'm just going to build up and reinforce with another, I believe, two platoons of infantry, and I'm going to get some mortars for defensive fire. Because the goal is to defeat the enemy in detail, in a sense that you want to isolate their units and just pick them off before they actually approach upon your infantry. Speed this up.
Обнаружен противник. Приготовиться к бою. Feindkontakt. Waffen scharf. Вижу контакт. Я броня. Цель обнаружена. Bestätige Zerstörung feindlicher Einheit.
Getting rid of their recon helicopters so I can take away their eyes, because I want the opponent to be blind.
Противник по курсу. К работе готов. Враг в поле зрения. Feindkontakt! Waffen scharf! Feindkontakt! Der geht fast durch!
Fast forward.
Feindkontakt! Waffen scharf! Кажется, это не наши! Feindkontakt! Waffen scharf! Обнаружен противник. Приготовиться к бою. Враг в поле зрения. Feindkontakt. Waffen scharf. Beware. Enemy nearby. Feindkontakt. Waffen scharf. Кажется, это не наши. Feindkontakt. Waffen scharf. Враг в поле зрения.
I've got two platoons at the front with a platoon in reserve just in case things get dicey and I need to reinforce any of these units.
Движение на горизонте.
Now that I'm pretty adequately set up, I'm going to start trying to search out and find the enemy in this forest here. So I set my recon on a path close to the front line to avoid any kind of man pads if there are any, because I just want to see how close this person is to me.
Движение на горизонте.
I'm going to see here some really good teamwork between my teammate and I in a sec.
Feindkontakt. Waffen scharf.
So these engineers are pretty troublesome, and I don't want to fight them with my regular assault infantry. So I'm going to want to deal with them with mortars and also the cooperation of my teammate here. Because if I can spoil the enemy's attack before they get close to me, I don't have to worry about losing the manpower. I also noticed that the enemy's going to try and run away, and I'm not going to allow it to happen. I'm going to keep them under surveillance with my recon and allow my teammate to clean them up. Also notice, in the meantime, I noticed that this is a good point for some SAMs to have a good view of the area or airspace above. So I put some cubs up here on top of this hill to get some good coverage. My base of operations is back here, and I've got good aerial coverage from here rounding out to here.
Броня! Цель обнаружена! Feindkontakt! Waffen scharf! Обнаружен противник! Приготовиться к бою!
One thing I will say is 10v10 is cool, but if you really want to get better at WARNO, you want to play like 1v1s, 2v2s, and 3v3s, because that's when you'll really learn to hone your tactics. And then when you do, if you decide to play a 10v10, you'll end up in scenarios like this where you're just strategically outplaying your opponent, and it's very evident. I got eyes on that Puma back there that's supplying his units, so I'm going to hit that with rocket artillery to disrupt the flow of my opponent. I only use rocket artillery for strategic purposes, and I don't just spam it. Especially since it's a high supply consumer, you really want to use your rocket artillery for important phases of attack or to the detriment of the opponent as far as hitting supplies or things like that, but not just to wipe out single units or anything similar like that. So now it's time to start reconning and mopping out the other units that were in this area, and to make sure this is clear before I start proceeding out. Try and make this video quick, but what you'll see is over time how this simple foundation here progresses to taking over the entirety of this forest.
Враг в поле зрения. Feind vernichtet. Ziel neutralisiert, Genosse Kommandant. Обнаружен противник. Приготовиться к бою. Враг в поле зрения. Движение на горизонте! Я броня! Цель обнаружена! Обнаружен противник. Приготовиться к бою. Визуальный контакт с противником. Противник по курсу, к работе готов.
Notice my teammate has some engineers and he's trying to push out this way, so that he's not blind. I'm going to send a recon helicopter forward and just keep it pretty close and just scan ahead of him, so he knows his vulnerabilities and where he may or may not be getting flanked from.
Противник по курсу, к работе готов. Движение на горизонте.
Calling in some more recon. These are going to be ground troops, and I'm going to use them to screen ahead of my forces and find out where the enemy is, if there may be any gaps in my front line.
Обнаружен противник. Приготовиться к бою.
So now I'm just spotting for my teammate here, so he's aware of the situation and what he's going into.
К работе готов. Враг в поле зрения. Готовьтесь, противник замечен. Визуальный контакт с противником. Я броня. Цель обнаружена. Обнаружен противник. Приготовиться к бою. Враг в поле зрения. Враг в поле зрения. Впереди противник. Нам поворачивать? Противник по курсу. К
I
работе
notice there's a
готов.
good bit of enemies over there that my teammate's gonna have to deal with, so I sent in my Hind as reinforcements.
Враг в поле зрения.
Get a good screenshot in. Given how overextended the enemy is to be out this far, I know it's going to be tricky for them to have any kind of man pads up, so I feel comfortable using my Hind in this kind of scenario.
Wir haben was abbekommen. Verschossen. Gegen einen zum Aufpositionieren. Враг в поле зрения.
Now, should I have reacted a bit quicker to that? Yeah, but it doesn't worry me as much because now those are less infantry that they have in this forest to keep us back from pushing, and it's going to take time for that infantry to get back from all the way over here back to this point. And by the time it does, we would have progressed here.
Feindkontakt! Waffen scharf! Er fliegt nicht mehr! Враг в поле зрения. Feindkontakt! Waffen scharf! Кажется, это не наши. Achtung! Feind in Sicht! Враг в поле зрения. Движение на горизонте! Движение на горизонте! Движение на горизонте! Feindkontakt! Waffen scharf! Feindkontakt! Waffen scharf! Движение на горизонте! Verschossen! Geheim zum Aufmunitionieren.
As you can see here, this guy's trying to bring in more units via the air, which isn't bad, but that's the problem with not having infantry in mass or a reserve like this in mass, because now every time you lose a unit, you're going back to bring in more units, and you're attacking in micro, and you're not gonna win that way. If you're not attacking with at least a platoon of two platoons or a three, or have a reserve at least to push, you're never gonna win this fight.
Обнаружен противник. Приготовиться к бою. Движение на горизонте. Противник по курсу. К работе готов. Противник по курсу. К работе готов. Движение на горизонте. Движение на горизонте. Противник по курсу. К работе готов.
Before I start pushing for my next attack to move forward, I don't want to lose any units to any unsuspecting engineers or groups or anything that may be in the forest, so I have to first get in some recon to screen outward and make sure all this is clear, as you can see. And then once I know that it's clear, then it's time to fast track it to the front. But everything has to have a natural progression. You don't want to just blindly send out units, because now you're losing units that could have been more effective had you just taken your time. I'll fast forward again.
Кажется, это не наши. Движение на горизонте. Обнаружен противник. Приготовиться к бою. Враг в поле зрения. Achtung! Feind in Sicht! Движение на горизонте! Движение на горизонте! Я броня! Цель обнаружена! Впереди противник. Нам поворачивать? Готовьтесь, противник замечен. Обнаружен противник. Приготовиться к бою. Движение на горизонте! Движение на горизонте! Впереди противник. Поворачивай. Движение на горизонте! Движение на горизонте! Движение на горизонте! Враг в поле зрения. Движение на горизонте! Движение на горизонте! Движение на горизонте! Файт-контакт! Движение на горизонте! Обнаружен противник. Приготовиться к бою. Обнаружен противник. Приготовиться к бою. Враг в поле зрения. Обнаружена!
Alright, so it's looking pretty clear at this point, and I know that I can safely move some units through this corridor here, or through here and up to here. So now instead of having to walk through all this forest and take my time, now I can fast track it to where I need to be. Does it take some time to do this? Yes, but this is how you properly determine which axis you can move down safely with minimal risk to losing your own units. You have to recon and screen. But yeah.
Обнаружен противник. Приготовиться к бою. Обнаружен противник. Приготовиться к бою. Feind nähert sich Feuerposition der Artillerie. Враг в поле зрения. Я броня. Цель обнаружена. Обнаружен противник. Приготовиться к бою. Achtung! Feind in Sicht.
Cool thing is that based on how you're screening, your teammate's gonna be a lot more comfortable fast tracking through shortcuts like this instead of going all the way around, because you have a good foothold on this area here. So it helps your teammates out as well. If I just sent all my units through here and didn't have any of this forest covered, then we would be a little bit more apprehensive about trying to fast track through here, because we don't know what to expect.
Противник по курсу. К работе готов. на горизонте! Готовьтесь, противник замечен. Обнаружен противник. Приготовиться к бою.
Противник по курсу, к работе готов.
Sure if there are any enemy units through here, even though my infantry teammates here. So I'm going to send my helicopter to flow through here and just reroute and come this way.
Враг в поле зрения.
I still have my units in here. Just these guys are just going to continually screen just to find any stragglers or maybe any enemy that may be trying to slip by. They're not going to be used defensively at all.
Wir wurden getroffen.
That's what your reserve infantry is for. So you want to be using your whole deck of infantry if you have it. There's no point in saving units.
Warning.
And then worst scenario, if you lose your infantry, you can pull from the reserve that you have back at your base, and if need be, transport
Кажется,
them
это не наши.
via helicopter. So always keep your helicopters.
Verschossen. Kehre heim zum Aufmunitionieren.
And you can kind of see how this base is developing its own ecosystem in a sense. Everything is working in unison. You have your screens out to the right, making sure no infantry are sneaking
Движение на
in.
горизонте.
You have your air defense, you have your base infantry defense, and then you have your forward security or ambush forces, whatever you want to say, going forward to seek out the enemy and figure out their disposition.
Warning.
This is a lot of forest to clear. I mean, this is a lot.
Я броня. Цель обнаружена.
Now I see the enemy isn't as well prepared in the defensive as they should be. And I know I can take advantage of this with just one platoon. I don't need 2 or 3, I just need 1. Because they're not prepared. And this is where my
Готовьтесь, противник замечен.
rocket artillery comes into play, because now I'm going to start hitting their anti-air so I can move in helicopters to sweep up any pockets of infantry I may run into. So it's all about attacking, like I said, in detail. I don't want to send infantry through here because I don't need to. I need to capture this point. I know this spot is kind of clear based on my screening, so I'm just going to move through here, and my teammate can feel comfortable operating over here because he knows that I've cleared it.
Waffen scharf.
As you can tell by how freely he's moving through here. So being
Обнаружен
a
противник.
well thought
Приготовиться
out
к бою.
player not only benefits you, but it benefits your teammates because it gives them the freedom of movement that they need to help you out as well.
Feindkontakt. Waffen scharf.
Nice little base of helicopters and supply that I can pull
Обнаружен
from
противник.
to either
Приготовиться к
support
бою.
my units via firepower or just recon. So
Feindkontakt. Waffen
just to
scharf.
reiterate, as you can see, I don't have to be everywhere to defend myself. I just need to know what's around and have good situational awareness. So you don't have to be everywhere. You just need to be somewhere that's beneficial to setting a defense that you can counterattack from. Now here I go, calling in my helicopter because I need some recon.
Противник по курсу, к работе готов.
Es hat mich erwischt. Verdammt, es hat mich erwischt.
Let's just say you take more of a mobile defense stance, which is if let's say that this screen here found like 5 engineers huddled up getting ready to advance my units. Well, now I can take this platoon I have in reserve and push them over here in anticipation for this attack. And before the attack comes, I can screen it with a helicopter and maybe hit it with artillery, mortars, airstrikes. So that way those engineers that are going to beat me in a forest fight are now weakened, their cohesion's off, and I can kill them off with just regular infantry. Defeating your enemy
На горизонте.
in minute detail.
Morphium! Gib mir Morphium!
Got another supply helicopter that I'm going to take out.
Готовьтесь, противник замечен. Bestätige Abschuss. Wir wurden getroffen. Вижу контакт.
Look, this defense isn't going to hold up. It's just, there's not enough here.
Готовьтесь, противник замечен. Erschossen. Dreh ab. Wir haben was abbekommen.
See what this looks like from his point of view.
Движение на горизонте.
Und noch einen Leichensack.
Yeah.
Morphine! Besoin de morphine ici!
Know what these two guys' game plan was, but yeah. That's pretty much the gist of it, just to keep this video short. There's no need. I eventually move up some more units and I create choke points. So I put a unit here, put a unit here, put a unit here, and I put a unit here, just one squad. No AA cover because it's not necessary, just to choke off any reinforcements that come here and suffocate this area. And after that, we win the game. But yeah, I hope this was informative. You don't have to be everywhere at once, you just need to know where you need to be. And the only way you can know where you need to be is by effectively reconning, because you're just not going to cover an entire map. But yeah, thanks for watching.